Welcome back to another amazing show. This is Real Estate Coach Uncensored, and my name is Greg McDaniel.
And I'm Bernice Ross, and we have an extremely important show for you today. It's called 3 Looming Threats to Real Estate. Even though it's the middle of summer and this is normally a quiet time for the industry, there are 3 threats that are taking shape as we speak that can radically change how we do business in the future. The first threat is in the area of regulatory enforcement, and the second 2 threats are tied to independent contractor status. First, in terms of what is going on at the federal level, in terms of the laws that are trying to be passed. And the second one is what is happening with the national and state departments of labor. Greg, this is really scary stuff. And we finished talking about it. You'll understand why and what you need to do to make sure that you're prepared. So let's begin with threat number 1, increased regulation and enforcement. We know that we are moving into an environment where there's going to be a lot more enforcement of regulations. Specific examples, the Department of Justice has been in a dispute with NAR regarding pocket listings, and this is a big one that's ongoing. The Biden administration decided to raise the budget for the IRS to increase the budget for doing audits over there. 67%. They're putting a lot of money into enforcement around taxes. This means you've got to cross your T's, dot your I's, and file on time. And then Biden's executive order instructs the Federal Trade Commission to do the following. Here's the exact quote from the order. To exercise the Federal Trade Commission's statutory rulemaking authority as appropriate and consistent with applicable law in areas such as unfair occupational licensing restrictions, unfair tying practices or exclusionary practices in the brokerage or listing of real estate. So this is specifically addressed at real estate, and any other unfair industry-specific practices that substantially inhibit competition. We know that the order addressed what was going on in the area of licensing, but also one of the things that's going to be huge is they're coming after commissions as well.
You know, Bernie, some of the stuff we just talked about with the FTC and some of the different rulings that may or may not be coming down, it really kind of begs the question to be asked, what's going to be happening with the Fair Housing Act? And I know you've done a lot of research into that. Help me understand, help our readers and listeners understand kind of what you've uncovered in regards to that.
At a recent Awesome Females in Real Estate, Lori Benner, she's the Associate Vice President of Programs at the National Fair Housing Alliance. She explained how the Biden administration has really stepped up fair housing regulatory enforcement. And they did this from day one. Now, what this means is many of you have heard about what happened in Long Island, where they did this big investigation and the agents were discriminating. It sounds as if much of it may have been unconscious, but the discriminatory behavior was still there. But one of the ways that they get after this is with testers. And Greg, you've got a great example of something that happened to a big company in the Midwest in this particular area.
You know what, Bernice, that's a really good question. There were 2 independent scenarios that took place. There was a white couple and a black couple. The white couple was offered both coffee and water. The black couple was offered just water. And it came down to the fact that the second agent with the black couple, just really personally did not like coffee, couldn't stand the smell or taste of it. But there was a $200,000 fine that was going to be on the line there, and they actually won it because of that. So, I mean, when it comes to being agents, you have to put a system and a checklist into place so that no matter who you're dealing with, it doesn't matter. Just make sure everybody's handled the exact same way, because everybody's a human, everybody has rights, everybody deserves the exact same level of professionalism.
And that level of professionalism has to be the absolute best that you can deliver. That's something that the very best agents and companies have always lived by, is being the most professional and providing the best customer service. That is what really makes you stand out. So Greg, let's go into threat number 2, the PRO Act. Well, everybody was concerned about this when the House of Representatives passed it. But now there's a second version that is in Biden's $3.5 trillion spending package. And not only will it end independent contractor status if that package passes, but it will end the right to work in 27 different states. So there are two different ways this becomes law now. And the concern right now with this big spending package, for it to pass, two things have to happen. First, they have to have the votes of all 50 Democratic senators.
Mhm.
Second, the Senate parliamentarian would have to agree that the spending package could pass with reconciliation. In other words, it would not be subject to the filibuster where the Republicans could stop it. Instead, it could pass with 50 votes from the Democrats. And then, because it's budget, which could be done with reconciliation, then Vice President Harris could pass the deciding vote. It passes, and this becomes law.
Hmm.
So this is a real legitimate concern. This is going to be coming up once they take the August vacation. It will be, it may, they're working on it right now, but keep your eyes on this. Now, the problem here, if this passes, Greg, the effects are going to be profound. You have so many different business models that, and you're with one, you're with the big virtual brokerage, you're with EXP.
I
What
am, yeah.
happens if all those agents have to become employees, or any other, model that relies on having large amounts of agents who pay fees in rather than just relying on what comes in through commissions?
Hmm.
So this is it's going to hit realtor associations. It's going to hit agents who do not have their broker's licenses, who can't do a B2B relationship. There are so many different ways that it's going to impact this. But there's a third aspect of this. The third threat is the state and national departments of labor are poised to use enforcement as a way to force the end of independent contractor status. I want to share what Kimberly Stassel of the Wall Street Journal had to say in this area. She specifically raised concerns about the confirmation of David Weil to run the wage and hour division of the Labor Department. And this is important because this is what regulates independent contractor status at the national level, and then the state labor departments can control it at the state level. Now, the thing that's interesting about Dr. Weil is he held this position from 2014 to 2017 during the Obama administration. And this is what Stassel had to say about this. The White House will deputize the Labor Department to implement as much of the PRO Act as possible through regulatory fiat. Mr. Weil would be a chief enforcer, and history shows he will not be shy. Dr. Weil issued rules stripping most contractors of their independence, in other words, eliminating independent contractor status, forcibly reclassifying them as employees in order to better unionize them. And he more recently worked with the Massachusetts Attorney General to sue Uber and Lyft as part of that blue state's effort to kill its own gig economy. So, Greg, I want to talk about the first case here that has already been litigated and resolved. It's called Bernice versus Coldwell Banker. And this was a class action suit. It was filed by a bunch of attorneys who went around filing class action lawsuits. And what they tried to do is they went after Coldwell Banker agents and saying Coldwell Banker was treating their agents in Southern California as if they were employees rather than independent contractors. And they went after them. Well, Coldwell Banker, to make this thing go away, they did some very smart things where they gave the agents a choice about did they want to take part in the lawsuit or be, if they had a dispute about commissions or other issues that they could arbitrate it, the agents chose to arbitrate with Coldwell Banker rather than be part of this suit. But what Coldwell Banker did is they shelled out, the settlement was $5 million. And they took a bullet for the entire industry because the fear was at the time that 50% of the brokerages and an even higher percentage of the agents would be out of business on day one if Bernice didn't get resolved. That was the fear. So Coldwell Banker took the bullet on that. Now, Greg, you're going to talk about the Zip Realty litigation, and this is scary what a state department of labor can actually do.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting when you dive deep into kind of what happened with Zipperlity. There were four independent contractors, aka real estate agents, that sued Zipperlity based upon the fact that they were being treated more as employees. Now, they got a settlement of $586,000. On top of the settlement of $586,000, the California Labor Commission came in and said, "Oh, this is interesting. This should apply to every single real estate agent in Zep Realty," and they went after him for $17 million. They ultimately settled for $5 million. But it's just a very interesting wave that we're seeing that's going back and forth. It's like, where is this going to land?
So, Greg, there's a much bigger issue here. And this applies not only to real estate, but they're going after Uber, Lyft, gig economy jobs.
Yeah.
It hits insurance agents, attorneys. It hits a whole variety of independent contractors across the board. So there's going to be opposition to this, but it comes down to what happens in the Senate. And that means there are going to be a handful of people that are going to be making the decision on this. So to wrap up for today, the question is, what can you do to be prepared?
Bernice, we really need to be prepared for what is coming. If you're a team leader, team owner, if you're a brokerage owner or anything else like that, you really need to understand the fact of kind of what the fair housing laws are going to be talking about and kind of how you need to be leading as a leader in this industry. You cannot treat independent contractors as employees. You have to treat them as independent contractors. So please keep that in mind. Talk to your manager, talk to your broker, talk to whoever your legal counsel is, understand where you stand on that. The last thing you want or need in your life is to go step on that line a little too far over it, unknowingly to you, and get yourself in trouble.
The other thing you have to be absolutely diligent about, whether you're running a team or you're a brokerage, or if you just are an agent who has an assistant, if you require them to be in the office at specific times, you require them to use your systems, you require them to do prospecting or open houses, they are technically employees, and that's what can get you in trouble. The way you work with an independent contractor, if you have somebody on your team, you get them the lead. Independent contractors determine how they go about handling that lead. You do not instruct them. There's an article linked to the original article here that talks about that in more detail. The bottom line is you've got to cross your T's, dot your I's, take the NAR course on fair housing and bias. The bias one is really interesting because it lets you uncover your personal biases and be prepared for what's coming. There could be an earthquake, or this may be, another time where we dodge a bullet and everything continues status quo. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you next time.